G'day, I'm Tim Thompson. A lot of people are having a look at revegetation, particularly around waterways and in areas of land that aren't good for productive agriculture. Today, I'm in tropical far north Queensland with a conservation group C4 that's actually doing a lot of research on a trial plot as to ways that we can reduce the amount of work that replanting areas creates with weeds and management issues. So let's have a look at the work that they're doing and find out how best to do your little bit of wildlife corridor or riparian replanting. G'day Peter, how are you mate?
Well, thanks Tim.
Thank you very much for having me out here today. I'm really interested in picking your brains a little bit about the trial research that you guys are doing for riparian planting, and particularly making it easier for people to revegetate small areas on their farms and not create huge amounts of work for themselves. And you reckon you've got a few tips and tricks that you've learned?
A few principles we worked out over the years, yes.
Now, having a look at the two areas that are immediately behind us here, and over to the left for the viewers, we've got a very tall planting here. Now, forgive me if I'm wrong, that was September 2020 that was planted.
Indeed, yep.
Things grow fast up here.
They do, but
then we've also got this group over here. Now, that was that January 21?
it was.
So within 6 months of each other.
Yes.
And blind Freddie could see that there's an enormous difference between what's over to people's left and what's over to people's right. And it's all about how it's done, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. In terms of the preparation of the site and then how you maintain it from there on. And in fact, our traditional plantings, which is what's behind you on that side, we were planting into ripped rows, planting 1.4 metres apart.
So Peter, this is traditional sort of rip rows and plants every so many metres sort of stuff. Can you talk us through what you did?
Okay, well, we know that there's going to be a weed issue with our maintenance.
Yep.
And so we decided that on these ones, we'd rip our row just to disturb the soil.
Yep.
And also straight rows so that we can plant in a straight row so that we can find our plants if the grass grows back all around them.
And you can slash down the middle and you
Yep.
can spray and you can do all of the
All
things
that,
that
yes.
we do in farming to get things to grow.
Exactly. Good. And so we did that.
Yes.
And these plants are planted about 1.4 metres apart.
Yes.
And we get this, and it's pretty good standard revegetation technique.
But there's a fair bit of work, and as we can see, there's quite a bit of weeds.
Yes, there are.
Biodynamic farmers, of course, would say the weeds are your friends and all that sort of stuff.
And
but
they
the
can be.
reality is they're slowing these plants down.
Well, exactly. You want to maintain some sort of ground cover so
Yes.
that you're not having the impacts of the sun and the rain, etc., on that ground. So you want to have all that ground cover, and yet at the same time, everything which grows there can actually work against your plants growing, especially
And you might not
some
want
species.
some things like this.
Devil's fig, yeah, just one more thing. It's
Yep.
one of the low priority weeds, but
Yes.
again, you just don't need
Don't want it, don't need it, and it's going to suck it out of
Yep.
what you really want to
it.
establish.
Indeed, yes.
So let's go and have a look at something that you've done that's a little bit left of centre, and it's worked. This might actually work not only in the tropics, but it also might work down in cooler climates as well, do you think?
I think so.
All right, let's go and have a look. All right, so Peter, this is very different right here. You've broken all of the rules here. Now, there was a chap who came to you with an idea and you've run with it?
Yes, indeed. Brett Krause, he came to us, he'd looked into this thing, he thought that this idea, Miyawaki method, was a really...
And Miyawaki comes from Japan.
It does, yeah.
Originally.
Yep. It's a method developed there for rehabilitating industrial land or land, urban land that they didn't want. They wanted instant gardens. And so
Brett's come to you with this idea. You've
Yep.
said, beautiful, we've got trial plots here, have a go.
Yep.
But something that really surprises me with this, for a conservation group, you're breaking all the rules, which is fantastic to see you having a go at that. You actually take all of the topsoil off to start with. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, we used an excavator, and basically you take all the topsoil off for your measured area, 4 or 5 metres wide.
So this row's about 50 metres long.
Yep.
Here? Yep. And so you went through 5 metres wide, 50 metres long, took all of the topsoil off with the grass.
Yep. And then we used the excavator to dig the next bit down to a depth of 1 metre. And all that soil was then put on the other side. We then,
So complete soil disturbance.
basically dug a huge swimming pool.
Breaks all the rules.
Took all the soil out.
Okay.
And
Now, what did
then-
you do with the topsoil? The precious, precious topsoil with that.
All that
with
good
glass?
topsoil with all that structure, etc.
Yes.
It all went back into the bottom of the hole
Wow.
because it's got all the weeds in it. It's
Yes.
got the weed seeds in it. The ones that are going to cause us a problem further down the track.
Yep.
And so now it's down in there.
And you're putting all the carbon in the grass and everything down below the emerging roots of the new trees, I'd imagine, as well.
Yes, but that's part of the secret to the rapid growth.
It gets the roots down. Yeah,
Exactly.
absolutely. I think it's a great. So then you put all the other soil back
Mix
on top.
straw,
Yep.
mulch, whatever, back into it, so that the whole lot is now fertilised, and it's also broken up in its bits.
So now you've put the topsoil back down into the bottom of the hole,
Yep.
and then you've put the subsoil on top of the topsoil,
Yep.
and then you've covered that with straw and mulch,
Yeah.
and then you plant into that.
Yep. And not just with that planting, not just your standard planting, but in fact, to replicate how mature forest would be, it's been worked out roughly 3 plants per square metre, which is a very dense planting.
So it's an incredibly dense planting
And
into
those
very
3
disturbed soil.
Yeah, and those 3 species, or the 3 plants that you used, you try to have one that's going to be tall,
Yep.
one middle, and one low.
So every square metre has a tall, a medium canopy, and an understory.
Yep. And
So
that's-
you're establishing your canopy rapidly because you've got this carbon down below and the roots are going to hunt for that. So it's going to grow quickly, and you've got your mid-story and your lower canopy plants protecting from weed coverage.
That's it.
So when we were up before and we were looking at the rip rows, we didn't have any of that, did we? We had
No.
the weed seeds still in place. We had trees all in a neat line, not around each other, like you would find in a forest. So I'm now walking between these two plantings. We've got our traditional ripped rows on this side, and we've got our Miriwaki planting on this side. And you can see there's not only a difference in the height of the canopy and the presence or absence of weeds, but have a look at the width of the canopy of both as well. And it's just astounding the difference that you get. Don't forget, these are only 6 months apart in their planting. Have a look at that. Turns out breaking the rules is good sometimes.
This is great, but because you have to dig the whole lot, disturb the soil, sometimes that's not, just doesn't quite work in the location. So
Well, there would be
you have to think
some
about-
locations that would just be terrible if you dug a great big trench in.
Exactly.
You'd end up with erosion and all sorts of things. You've got reasonably deep tropical volcanic soils here,
Yep.
so you can get away with that. Okay, now I believe that you've been doing something similar to this, but you've adapted it to local conditions.
Yep. So we're going to have a look at that.
I can't wait to see it. Let's go and have a
Good.
look. So, Peter, my fruit and vegetable background is making me feel comfortable. I feel at home here. This doesn't look too challenging at all. Explain to me what you've done with these beds here.
Okay, using the Miyawaki principles, we want to be able to get the soil prepped up in a
Yep.
way that it'll get the rapid growth of the plants, and yet not digging to a metre depth. Instead, what we've done is we've ripped each bed. We've done it 4 rips per row.
That's
So-
probably down to a metre anyway, if you're using
Yep.
a deep ripper, aren't you? So,
Yep.
But you're not turning the soil over this time, you're just breaking it up.
Yep, just using a rotary hoe to break it up. Now,
Yep.
that will then break up the weed seed bank in the soil, but not, unfortunately, won't get all of them, so we do have to deal with that. But it just opens up all that topsoil so that you can have the tilth to plant into.
And we know that this works because this is how we do
This is-
standard agriculture and horticultural practices.
Yep.
We've ripped down to about a metre, we've rotary hoed the top a couple of times, we've broken up the topsoil,
Yep.
we've exposed the weed roots, some of the weed seeds are coming back. You're going to now herbicide this.
Yep.
You're going to use some traditional old herbicide,
Yep.
get it going. Then what are you going to do? You're going to put some bagasse mulch on this because we are in far north Queensland.
Indeed, we'll use that as our organic matter, put it over the top of this bed, rotary that in,
Yep.
and then we'll plant into all that at a density similar to, maybe not quite the 3 per square metre, but at a higher density than our normal 1.4 metre spacing.
And once again, in your square metres, you're going to have an upper story plant, you're going to have
Yep.
a mid-story plant and a
And
lower story plant.
plant.
That's very important as well.
Yeah,
And then you're going to mulch over the top of those.
and then we fully mulch over that again.
Now, the advantage, I suppose, of doing it this way is it's even less labour intensive than the Miyawaki.
Yes.
And you can do more land in a shorter period of time. Now this is really important because you're working with partners to produce carbon credits. And you reckon with this method you can do about 0.5 hectare a day. So that's going to allow you to realise economic potential with replanting. And I know a lot of farmers are looking at ways that they can actually take advantage of some of these carbon credits on their farm, particularly their less fertile areas. And so these sort of techniques that you're trialling here could well be of interest to your traditional farming enterprise, and they'll add value to the farm in all sorts of different ways.
Yep. We just know that the standard technique is too expensive in establishment of the tree cover.
That was the first thing we saw, where we just rip the row and we plant in nice neat rows. Too expensive because you've got to look after it. So we're
this
going
way,
to this.
the idea is to do something that gets established faster and requires much less maintenance, and we think that the savings on that will outweigh the extra time that we spend in doing the preparation and the density of the tree planting itself.
So your research here is interesting because you're looking at ways that you can not only make the revegetation effective, obviously your interests are in wildlife conservation and rehabilitation of unused land, but you're also really intelligent in that you're looking at ways to make it economically sustainable so that it becomes part of farming practice.
Well,
And it's achievable.
now that word achievable is something that's really important to us. Something that you can actually do. It's something that hopefully is more attractive to more people, so they actually do it. It's the thing being that you can have your best scheme possible, but if nobody does it, then it doesn't work.
There's no point. So Peter, this is what your new plots are going to look like when they're planted out. You're going to have mulch over the top of the deep ripped and rotary hoed area.
Yep.
Now, the principles of the Miyawaki remain, even though we're using traditional agriculture techniques, because you're looking for rapid site capture, you're saying?
Yes.
So you want to get these plants up and shading the site as quickly as possible before the mulch breaks down.
Before the mulch breaks down and before the weeds get established.
And you're leaving a gap on each side. Now this is critical as well. Talking to Ian, another chap that you work with, and he was talking to me about the planting densities and how they work out. Now you're deliberately leaving free gaps that don't have to be managed between these Miyawakis. And can you explain to me the reason for those gaps?
Okay, because we're using much higher density in the areas, in the bands that we're doing, then we would, if we were doing the whole area uniformly like that, it would be a lot of plants. We've been able to determine from our previous plantings that we can leave gaps on each side. As this grows, the spread will actually shade out the weeds between the beds. And so
it's saving. If I'm doing this on my farm, it's saving me money. I don't have to manage that area apart from slash it a couple of times.
Absolutely, you might spray it at some stage if you really want, but it's mostly it's just slashing.
Yeah.
It's just, you're not planting it, you're not ripping it, you're not doing anything to it. Just slash it in between. Just a bit of mowing.
So 5 metres wide, deep rip, rotary hoed, put some mulch on top, rotary hoe that in, put some more mulch on top, plant your trees.
Yep.
Plant the trees to 3 trees per square metre, upper story, mid story, lower story.
Yep.
You're going to play around with those spacings a little bit in the future.
We'll try and do it even a few less.
Going to try and save some more money.
Yep. Try and make it even more cost effective. If we can do 2 trees per square metre and achieve a close enough to the same effect, then that's more trees that we can put somewhere else.
Isn't it fantastic? We've managed to industrialise environmentalism.
That's the way we're trying to do it, because the scale of what we need to do means that we need better ways of actually achieving bigger results.
Nothing annoys me more than seeing people going along with a spade and chucking a plant in a hole and walking away. This stuff's going to work, and it's going to work because you're using logical farming techniques that have been developed over centuries, and you're applying them to get green carbon credits, and you're revegetating areas of land that are not viable for agriculture anyway, and you're improving the lot of everyone. Well done, mate. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Tim, for coming and having a look and being interested in what we're doing.
Oh, always. Guys, If you're interested in applying some of these techniques to your farmland, maybe you've got a little patch of farm that's not performing and you're thinking of dabbling in green credits, get onto C4. I'll put a link in the description and you can find out more about their trials and see what works for you and what doesn't work for you, because at the end of the day, it's got to work.
We're going to work at it till it does.
Guys, if you like this sort of thing, don't forget, hit the subscribe button, give us a like, and there's plenty more content like this and more on timthompson.ag. I'll see you next week.